So we are in a period right now where we are experiencing some warm weather, mixed with some cold weather, mixed with some warm weather. I think it was like negative 20 something degrees here a couple weeks ago, and it was a couple days later in the 50s. So nonetheless, frost laws are coming into play. So let's talk about that. You guys probably seen these signs before. They're all over kind of our city where we live. They're all over really northern states. So what is a frost law? How does it affect you? What do you guys need to know about it? Let's dig into it for a minute because it's very, very critical, especially from a transportation side. You can get yourself in a ton of trouble. There's a reason that laws are in place, and we need to be educated on them. So one, you probably see these signs, just like the picture we showed. We probably see these signs, all over the place. They pop up in the springtime or late winter, and you might be wondering what it is. So what a frost law goes into effect after we had a frost and the ground is frozen, and then we have a warm front. So ground's frozen, there's ice in the ground, the soil is frozen, everything's frozen, rain comes, heat comes, moisture gets into the gravel base, basically creates a weak spot. So look at this picture. It's a pretty good diagram. So it says why Michigan needs spring weight restrictions, but many places have them. We have them in Indiana. All of these northern states typically have them, wherever there's frost. So you have the frozen soil trapping water above at the bottom. You see the soil at the bottom. Then you have gravel base, and then you have a pavement, just like any road. So you have the frost is in effect, the ground's frozen. Then you have the gravel above it, and it gets frozen, especially if there's a little bit of moisture in there. And then what happens, you get a warm spell, and then spring rain comes in, or really, I guess, winter rain. We had a ton of rain here a couple weeks ago, and we are just in February. And what happens is that rain soaks through the pavement, gets into the gravel base, and basically creates weakness. And then that gravel base, this middle base here, it gets weak, and then as you drive over it, the pavement's not as strong. So there's gaps underneath that first layer of pavement in that gravel base, and it creates a lot of damage to roads. So that's what it is. You see these frost law signs, that's what it is. It's a law that goes in place stating that road is now weight restricted. So you see that sign that we started this video with. That sign is basically saying you have to visit the county to get permits to go through that road at those certain weights. So roads get weight restricted when frost law is in effect. So how does that affect? Well, let's look at it both ways. How does that affect us from a transportation side, or if you're a driver? Severely. So let's take a look at Michigan here. We are just south of Michigan. We do a lot of work in Michigan. So this is last year. This is not right now, so don't panic. This is last year. And I just wanted to show this because you can find frost law maps on any state just through their website. Just do a quick Google search and it'll pop up. So frost laws a lot of times work by county, and state trunk lines can go into effect where the state puts restrictions on all state roads. But typically what you'll see first is these counties. That's why it's broken into counties here in Michigan. And red counties means frost laws are enforced. Obviously, if it doesn't say, you see county enforcement date, that's when they're going to go into effect. So a lot of times they'll tell you early when they're going to go into effect, so you have this much time to move roads through it. Partial frost laws might be just on certain roads, not on throughout the whole county. So it varies county to county everywhere you go. So you might not have one in one county, you could have them in the next, and you better know which county has which frost laws in place. So if you are moving a load and you're in transportation, and say you got to go into Michigan, and one county is off and one county is not, and you got to go through both of them, you're not going to be able to deliver the load unless you have a permit to get through there or can legally get a route through there with your axles. So what does that mean? If we typically can move a piece of machinery, say it's 60,000 pounds. Say the piece of machinery is 60,000 pounds and we run it on a 6-axle, 3-axle truck and a 3-axle trailer. We permit that basically anywhere in the nation. that will be sufficient. In Michigan, I'm just using Michigan as an example because we know it so well, but all these other states around here do it. In Michigan, for an example, when frost laws go into effect in counties, they will drop the amount of weight that they'll allow you to have per axle. And I think on the state roads, it's 35% they drop it. If I'm wrong, you can put it in the comments. I'm not looking at it. But nonetheless, they'll tell you, you are not allowed to get a permit for this 60,000 pound load through these counties because you are overweight per axle for what our frost laws are. So if you're permitting a load, and say you permit for 20,000 pounds an axle as an example, all the time, well, when frost laws in effect, they're gonna only allow you to permit for 35% of what they typically allow. So a typical 60,000 pound load that we move on a 6-axle, it could need a 8-axle setup to get a permit for. It might need a 9-axle setup. However, it would really need to be, permitted or broke down per axle. But it's that weight of that piece would have to spread out amongst more axles. That way, each axle is under the frost law rating for the state or the county that you're traveling through. If that makes sense. What happens if you don't? You can, one, damage roads, which is very bad for all of us. Never want to damage roads. 2, major tickets, major fines. So if you get caught with running overweight in the frost laws, they'll pull your permit. They'll put you out of service. I've seen things where it's affected insurance and premiums. They can go in as far as impounding. I know that's extreme, but first off, you'll get a major ticket. Some states and some counties, they all do it differently, but I've seen it before where guys will get caught overweight and they'll actually charge you. I think this happens quite a bit. They'll charge you per pound, over per axle you were, and they can get extremely expensive. So hopefully you guys know a little bit more about them now. You know what frost law is, you know what they are, you know how to see where they're at. They're real. Make sure you're educated on them. We are hitting that time. It's kind of early. Right now it's February, so it's early. But just because of the fact that we have had warm weather up here in northern Indiana, there are county roads around us right now that are already in effect. So you have to be vigilant and know which roads you're traveling on.